Hello, welcome to Introduction to Shamanism. And as it states, the name is that this is an introduction to those of you who have little or no knowledge of shamanism, or those of you who may be coming in here and supporting me or have an interest or have some knowledge of it, but you wanted to see how it's presented in the way that I'm presenting this in my own unique way. And may I do it justice within an hour at least, to have a little time frame here that I can say that it's going to be about an hour. I might go over. There's a lot of topics that's going to be talked about, and I will do the best that I can as it comes out of me. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming here and expanding your knowledge of who you are as, a spirit in physical form. And this is the dream manifested. And there's a larger part of you in what we call the spirit world, or in shamanism, it's known as non-ordinary reality, that is there and always looking out from your eyes. It's us humans who tend to turn away for whatever reason. And here we are in human form, expanding creation and, working in cooperation with the spirits and expanding creation together as a co-creator. As we continue to walk in beauty. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for everything that is going on here, all the beings of the higher frequencies and what we call in shamanism the compassionate helper, helping friendly guides and angels, and everyone in the higher frequencies that are here in this space with us. Again, co-creating this opportunity that we have to expand together just in this very small talk on shamanism. And so again, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There are going to be beings and people that have taken form that are no longer with us. And some of them are my friends, and you'll see them come up on the screen as I present some of the slides here for us. And before we start, I just want to, again, just do a little prayer. If you could close your eyes and take a good deep breath and follow that with a couple more breaths as you're listening to my voice. And settle into your space and relax. As you're listening to my voice, maybe you're still taking those breaths in and your eyes are closed. And I just again want to do a quick prayer as we join in heart space here. And just breathe into your heart space as if you have lungs in your heart, and relax into your space. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you again for this co-creation that we're doing here, and for those joining in, no matter when they're joining in and what their intentions are as far as, expanding themselves into the higher frequencies. We continue to, again, co-create this place together. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for this day. Thank you for the water and the food that sustains us. Thank you for everything that we have in this physical realm, the dream manifested, so that we can continue to expand creation in a loving way. As these frequencies are upon us now and we access them, we give thanks for everything we have in reverence in our heart space. And we tune into each other out of time and space, no matter when they're joining in here. This still holds true for everyone that comes into the space and everyone around the world as we continue to breathe and offer our appreciation and thankfulness for this co-creative opportunity. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, spirits, thank you, ancestors, thank you, beings of the highest of frequencies. We love you so very much, as we love ourselves. May it be so. Oh. So, I also want to do just a quick bringing in the spirits. It's called calling in the spirits. And I'll talk about this a little bit as we go along here when I'm going to introduce shamanic journeying. I want to bring in someone that's really close to me right now. When I first started doing this today and gathering the materials and the slides, I noticed that he was coming in, and of course there's others, but he, assisted me in my awakening to shamanism when I first started out. And he was there leading the very first spirit lodge at the Sacred Earth Foundation in Florissant, Colorado, when I was really beginning my journey in all this. And his name's Santiago Corregencho. And he left his physical body, still very present. Of course, there's no such thing as death. And he's present with us now. And he made this beautiful flute, and he made these flutes. Amaru is the name, which is in Quechuan means snake. And, the Kundalini energy, and you can look up that word Kundalini if you're not familiar with it, that runs up and down the spine. And it's the life force energy that gives us that access to, from the lower frequencies to the higher frequencies. And it's that connection in which the mystery schools talked about, that if we as human beings, as individuals, in order to expand who we are and reach what we call enlightenment, we are bringing those frequencies from the lower part of the spine up. And it's called a Kundalini energy that circles around us, and we can reach that enlightened space in the physical body. There's so much on it, but I'm not going to be talking about that here because we're talking about shamanism. Of course, I'm going to be talking many terms. You might want to get a notebook, take some notes, and of course you have access to this introduction video, so you can access it at any time, and then have me go back to certain things. There's going to be a lot said and the terms being used, and do your own research on that. Okay, so Kundalini energy. But I just want to do a little song. There's a prophecy, and it's known as the condor and the eagle come together in these times of the Great Awakening. And the South Americans, the peoples, our brothers and sisters in that area of the world, knew that as we come across this point in humanity, as the Grand Awakening, like I said, that there was a point we crossed back in 2012, and that the condor of the South, of the heart space, the peoples that never left the dream, and they were always remained constant within their ways and held the space for those that traveled into the mind, and those are the people of the North. And that's you and I. I mean, I'm giving this presentation in America right now. I was born in America. And the symbol of America is the eagle. And so the eagle is of the mind, whereas the condor is of the heart. And there's a journey that man's taking that's going from the mind into that middle part here. And that's where the voice is coming up, right here in the throat chakra. And we're moving into our heart space as a whole of humanity. And so in these times, that's the prophecy, that at some point, and we've crossed the point already, so I'm speaking post tense at this point, that the condor and the eagle will fly again in the sky. And here we are. And it's a very beautiful perception of what's going on with the connection of humanity. And as we go towards a collective consciousness way of being, instead of being separate borderlines and countries and different, not that we're move away from that. In a sense, we kind of are. We're with the all across borders, holding hands. It's like that across the world in our heart spaces as we continue to expand creation, then going forward without the disconnect or feeling separate from each other. So you can do your own research again on the prophecy of the condor and the eagle. And I have two flutes here. One that's made, and this one is made from Santiago. We call him Shanti. And so he made these flutes. Again, he left his body a few years in time and space, but he's very present in this room right now. And this is a flute. This is an A. It's tuned to A 440. And then I have one flute here, a Native American, a tribal flute that And this was made in by High Spirits Flutes, and it's a heart chakra flute. And so this is, again, represents the eagle. So this flute represents the condor, and this flute represents the eagle. So I just want to play here as I slip and take some good deep breaths. You could just sit back if you're not already enjoying this, and just relax in your heart space. This is a type of flute that has a different mouthpiece, and you really have to get into a heart space and reverence. I already blew it a couple times, so it's a little wet. So I got to make sure I don't have a cleaner right now, but you cannot play this flute without being in your heart space. Okay, so yeah, and thank you, Shanti, for making this beautiful instrument, and such a pleasure of meeting you in this lifetime. And thank you for co-creating this space with us right now. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for coming into this space. And so, as you can see up on the screen here, we have a Black Panther. And Black Panther is one of my guardians that is always with me and always holding space for me. We'll get into spirit guides in just a little bit. So that's why we have the Black Panther up here. And so thank you for this medicine today, for being here in this space. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So just to get into this here, shamanism is not a religion, okay? So it's a way of being. It's a way of accessing all of who you are, not just the being in the physical body, but being in a physical body and then walking the good red road, they say in Native American, is that you're walking with spirit and knowingly doing that from a moment to moment basis, a daily basis. So it's not like you go in and, you know, spend some time once or twice a week and you do your shamanic thing. Perhaps you do, but it's a moment to moment thing. It's a daily practice, just like meditation. And it's something that you integrate into your life, into every thing that you do, from, you know, playing in the park to doing a business deal to, integrating that into your workspace and your private life. And so, it's at the core of your being. It's at the very core of your being and who you are. And again, you'll probably hear me say it a few times, is in meditation, it gives you access to quiet the mind, Because when the mind is quiet, then you could hear spirit speak. When we're always in the mind and there's a lot of mind chatter, we're strengthening that noise. And so meditation, I always recommend right away here, is that you allow yourself a daily practice every day for about 20 to 30 minutes a day to get quiet, find a space in your house or wherever you are, your apartment or your flat, wherever you are located, and to take 20 to 30 minutes every day and stay consistent with it, because you will see results in a very long time, a very short amount of time, and in less than a month. And when you stay with it, then you'll also notice that you have clearer and more precise ways of talking and thinking and making decisions, because it's not just you in your brain as a singular identity, as a human walking about, and then kind of teetering between, should I do something, indecision, not being able to make the decisions that you need for your life, whatever that is that you're walking in grace and beauty with your entourage. Like I said, the Amu here, which I call my nickname here in my council, is they're always walking alongside you, always looking out from your eyes. In meditation, it helps to quiet the thoughts. You can't stop it because the brain does that. That's how it works. That's the mechanical way in which it works. It's function to always think, which is beautiful, because what we're doing here is that we're expanding creation. So it's not something you're going to be shutting off. It's just going to sit in the background. And then you have access to what we known to be the imagination is really accessing the higher mind. So that we say when the higher self is the larger part of you who's always giving you information, always giving you what is called the intuitive knowing. That you have access to. But if we're always in the mind and thinking all the time, that we sometimes might not access that. So I strongly recommend that a daily practice that you do, and meditation doesn't have to be this extraordinary thing. You just quiet yourself. I have some noise cancellation headphones that I have. Sometimes I don't have them. That's okay. I'll wear earplugs. Even then, that's okay. And I listen to a steady sound. It could be the sound of a fan. It could be, that my heartbeat. I have earplugs I can just put in and listen to my heartbeat for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. You can listen to some meditation music. I don't encourage any guided meditation, but if that's something you do, there's no wrong or right way. It's just the way we're teaching it here is that it really gives you access to be able to just quiet the mind chatter, because it's always going. So that's what this is. And when you stay steady with it without skipping days, it really is a wonderful thing, because it gives you that steady progress. And in a very short amount of time, you'll find some extraordinary things happening for you. So 20, 30 minutes a day, listening to a steady sound. I have an app of an air conditioner that I listen to. You might hear some thunder in the background, just started when I started this video. It's so fitting. Again, thank you. Thank you, Spirit. Maybe you won't, because again, there's noise cancellation microphone on these headphones that I have. So if you listen to that application, get a nice app of maybe a central air conditioner to steady tone. Maybe you have a fan you can listen to. So stay steady with that and you'll see results. And it also quiets the mind, the sense that it lowers the brain wave. And I'll be talking a little bit about this when I introduce shamanic journeying. Okay, so without further ado here, shamanism's when I was learning about it, it's well over 100,000 years old. No one really knows how old shamanism is, but it's one of the oldest. It's not a religion, but it's the oldest known isms that we know. If you look back to Buddhism, I mean, the mantras there are like ancient mantras that you can look at and to see when you do your research on that. But that's doing essentially the same thing when you recite mantras. It's lowering the brain waves and it's connecting to that resonance of the heart space, so you can access the spirit world. And the shaman is one who walks between worlds. So you're here very present in the physical, while at the same time, simultaneously, you're in another world. You're in the spirit, what's known as non-ordinary reality. Okay, so that's a shamanic term. Everyone's born a shaman. Everybody is a shaman, but some actually take it as a lifestyle to do the work and to provide it either first for the self, because you love the self first, and then you can be there truly for others in that any relationship you have, either a family member, or if it's a coworker or a friend or a lover or any relationship, other human relationships you have, then you can truly be there for them. And because you have the love of yourself, love of the self first, and then for others. So it's older than, again, it's about 100,000 years old, if not more than. So I'm going to bring up a slide here, and I'm going to bring up a couple. So as we see here, and I just accessed these online. Okay. And it's shamanism is cross-cultural. So it's all over the world, and every culture has their own ways of presenting it and how they perform or do shamanism, embrace it, we'd like to say. And so, yeah, there's cave art, like this one right here comes from France, cave art in France. And it depicts right here, if you could see this being, it's like half man, half beast. And when you're working with shamans, it's walking between worlds. So, and you'll hear terminology that I'll use that may be new to you, shape shifting. So a shaman, again, is able to shape shift into the spirit animal, which is providing them the medicine they need to do the work, whatever it is, provide it for the well-being of the individual or for the community at large, for the health and well-being. Maybe, the shaman was the one, in some cultures, for instance, the shaman was struck by lightning and then boom, came into shamanism. It was revered, but also very feared at the same time. The people of the culture, like if you were the shaman, you were the different one. But you were also the known to be the witch doctor, the one that doctored the people. Whatever the individuals needed, you were the one they went to. So you were revered very big, so in a big way. And then you had your own place in the tribe, and you were taken care of. You were taken care of. You didn't need to make money like the other people did, or do these certain things. Your service, basically, what you did, if the money wasn't involved in the culture at the time, or even now, that's what you provided as your keeps. That's what you did for what you did as for the community at large. You were the doctor. And so people would go to you for any illness that they couldn't figure out, or even the regular doctors that were there, they went to the shaman, because the shaman would be able to access areas which most humans could not do. Okay, so I'm going to bring up another slide here. And so again, shamanism is known to be well over 100,000 years old. They don't know when that actually occurred, and it dates back to Siberia, but other cultures too. So it's not just that area. I mean, it depends on who you ask, basically. But when I got these images, this one's the Siberian shaman, and see if you could, so you could see that he's got the antlers of the reindeer up there, because that's the animals of the area of the place of the world in which they worked with. And so they worked very much with the nature spirits, and they, as a partnership. And so, when they went out and hunted, for instance, they used all of the part of the animal, and every little part, and they honored it. They did prayer first, set the spirit free off into the spirit world, and then they used the rest of the physical to sustain themselves, to for food, for clothing, blankets, creature comforts. And then also they used it for their tools and ceremony. So guaranteed, this drum right here is made from the skin of the reindeer, and then you got the antler, what the shaman puts on, even the clothes here, and maybe even that drum mallet that they have in their hands. And that they went, like we did at the beginning, we breathed into our heart space, and then we connected to spirit, said prayers, and then now they lowered the brainwave, and then they're connected to spirit. And this is where they start doing the dancing and the singing and whatever they're doing for the well-being and integration of the frequencies to the intention in which they're doing it for. So they shape shifted into the animal spirit in which they have working with them. And again, it depends on the culture. You might hear some really heavy rain here. It's raining all of a sudden. Speaking of reindeer, beautiful. Thank you, Spirit. We need the rains right now. And so, again, in Siberia, they worked with them. And even like they would take some medicines, and it depends on how much research you do on this, but they would even take whatever the reindeer was eating. And it's always the predator-prey relationship. And they would shapeshift again. They'd honor the prey, and so whatever the reindeer would do, they make sure that they ingest that too. They work with the plant spirits, and everything known in nature has a counterpart first in the spirit world. And this is the secondary world. This is the dreaming time. This is the dream manifested. In the primary world, we created the physical world first. And that's, again, that's cross-cultural. And even many religions too talk about this, is that we manifested this place first in spirit. And then we came here in the physical. And now we're here to expand creation. And that was the point of all of this. So the plant spirits they would take, some of you know about ayahuasca, and that's why they do these journeys with ayahuasca, because the ayahuasca has the same vibration and frequency as that of the earth, which is known as the Schumann frequency. You can study on this too. You can look up do your research. Everything in nature moves to that frequency. So if you can match the frequency in which your intentions are, then you're working in partnership with the nature spirits. And it's called animism, that everything alive in spirit everything alive in nature has spirit, has a counterpart, has sentience. First in the spirit world, that's the first world, and this is the second world. So it's when you hear first attention, as a shaman is, and those who's religious being in the religion sector, spiritual sector, like a priest or anything of that sort, they have first attention. And then the second attention is where regular people, like a 3D of this realm, just in regular work life and all that, is the second attention. So it's more attention to the dream time. Okay. So again, this is an introduction, and I could really talk a lot on this. So I just want to say that I don't have my timing up here, and my clock is somewhere else, but I'll do the best I can. Can't really see the time. It's okay. So here's the third slide here. I can really hear that rain coming down now. It might really get loud here, but that's okay. That's a good thing. We trust. Okay, so here's some picture art that is really old, and it shows it, like you could see it, like that there's a shaman here, and it looks like he has a drum. And there's the spiral, which again is a cross-cultural symbol, and everyone has a spiral at the top of their head, and which is really neat. The spiral represents like the labyrinth, and there's only one way in, and the one way in and one way out, and the way out is the way in. So it's a big metaphor for how we have to work our way out from going in first, inside of ourselves. And shamanism, again, as we said at the very beginning, is a way to know thyself, is the way to know all of who you are, the larger part of you to the human. But you have to work your way in, and then you work your way out. One way in, one way out. The spiral is kind of like that. And it's like a never-ending cycle, a lot like the eagle's path is that figure 8, which is no beginning, no end. The Mobius in science, they call that. So shamanism is a way to improve your health, mental, emotional, physical, and every aspect. So when you start really tangoing with this, you'll start improving in ways and expanding, we like to call it, in ways that you couldn't imagine. Well, that's a phrase, or sort of speaking. It's like, yes, that's what we're doing, is we're accessing the imagination, which is the higher mind. We like to say the Christ consciousness, the Buddha consciousness, is that when you quiet your mind and intentionally, then you're able to access information which is otherworldly. You would normally be able to access the brain, because the brain is finite. It can only find the answers within its confines, and after that, it doesn't really know. Okay, you can hold information in memory through the brain, but when you access we would say the God consciousness, the collective consciousness, it's never ending. It's infinite intelligence. Okay, so there's spiritual aspects and facets. That's when we said at the beginning, there's a we. So there's so much of you. You are an ancient being. You've lived so many different lifetimes, and you were there at the very beginning. There's no beginning or end. That's how big you are. And so I had someone yesterday, when I was talking to them, they asked me, is there an infinite, a finite number of souls? Where souls come from and all this, which is a pretty deep question, but there's no beginning, no end, and there's no ending to how expansive this whole thing can be. It's just a constant expansion. We don't even know how far, there's no ending to it. That's how big it is. The brain can't fathom this. Maybe at some time it will. So you're accessing the aspects and facets of all who you are. So when we talk about spirit guides or angels or, different beings that are assisting you, the compassionate, helping spirit guides, those are aspects, those are facets of yourself. So they're extensions of the self. There's no romanticizing spirit guides. A fly spirit guide or a worm spirit guide is just as potent as a jaguar or a bear. It's just what you need at the time. Again, we talked about medicine and the nature spirits. It provides the individual for medicine and what you need, for which you're working with, for the medicine that you need at the time. So you could have a spirit guide for a day or a few hours, and then another one could step up to plate a few hours, few days, a week, months, years, and then slip in the back, another one comes up, or multiple at a time. We're all born with about 5 to 10 spirit guides, and they can leave or come and go accordingly to what's happening with you. A lot of people go through trauma, the spirit guide will leave, and then you'll feel powerless. And we'll go talk about this, just touch upon this, but it's called soul loss, where there's aspects of yourself, or pieces of yourself that can leave into non-ordinary reality and stay there for safety reasons, because it doesn't feel safe to get into the body. And then the spirit kind leaves with that. So soul loss is a good example of that. Is if you ever hear one say, I haven't been the same since. It could have been a trauma, any kind of abuse, childhood abuse throughout life. It could be someone that told you your nose looked funny when you were younger, and that hurt you so much that you checked out. Piece of you checked out, no fooling. It depends on how sensitive the individual is. Or it could be extreme abuse, or car accidents, or again, anything traumatic to you. You stay at the moment of impact in that space of non-ordinary reality, and then either through dream time, or a shaman comes, and that's why the shaman's hired to come and access that aspect or soul piece of yourself, or pieces, and then come and retrieve them to you along with a spirit guide, and then you're power-filled and powerful again. So in here, we're just going to overlap some of these images, but that's okay. I'll just bring them all in here. I'm going to bring up another slide here. And so some of you may know about the third eye. And so it's in shamanism, we see with the strong eye. And that's how we're able to see, where the two physical eyes are shut. And then, even science knows that what's known as the third eye. And this is a lovely image of the Buddha, Buddha's state. You and I, Buddhas, once we access, quiet our mind, and go into our true nature, which is the Buddha self. Basically, when we leave this place, there's no such thing as death. We just get rushed up into all of who we are, and then we become the happy little Buddha again. But in duality, we have contrast. And so when we leave this phone, or we go slip into meditation, and some of us walk around, and you can't always be a Buddha state because you're human, you're in a dual state. So there's no such thing as getting a degree or a certificate for enlightenment. If someone gives it to you, then slowly, quickly walk the other direction, because the whole point of being in contrast is to expand who you are. So it's a moment-to-moment recalibration. But when we tap into that true nature, they call it in Buddhism, of who we are, then we reach the Buddha state. Okay. And I don't know, for me and my personal thing, I don't stay into the Buddha state. Some people do, they choose to have that in this lifetime to step into that state. That's what they want to experience in the physical. But you know, to move out of that state and then go off and enjoy your life, and to go off and enjoy lovely food and company and experiences and things you want to do. Like right now, I just want to jump into the back of this waterfall right here that I used as a backdrop and go, wee, let's have fun. So I'd be stepping out of the meditation state. Doesn't mean that I'm stepping out of my Buddha state. No, my focus, it's all about focus, is no longer in that just smooth, relaxing Buddha state when I kind of tense up when I go take a dive into enjoying a waterfall. Just giving you a really simple example there. So when in shamanism, we're seeing with the strong eye. So that is the all-seeing eye. In that you can see the multiverse. It's what it's called, multiple dimensions. There's places in creation that don't exist until you get there. And so when you shut the two physical eyes, you can see, literally see, science knows this, you can literally see with that third eye. And so a shaman's known one who sees, who knows without knowing with the brain, walks between worlds. And we talked about the multiverse. You can be here in this dimension while accessing other dimensions at the same time. And then they bring back information from the spirit world and share it with those who need this for their well-being. It's always intentional. You don't go into the spirit world blindly without having an intention. Okay, so that's why they do what they do. So the shaman becomes the hollow bones. And so if you look at, and I'm just going to move this image over just a little bit. If you look at this shaman, or even the one over to the left, this person right here is becoming the hollow bones over there with the drum in the middle of the screen, and to the left, or maybe it's to the right of you. I don't know how they're going to flip it. But again, half man, half beast. And what they're doing is that once you calibrate yourself to your heart space, and however you do that through meditation and breathing, and you come and give up your body, in a sense, to become the hollow bones. And that's a term in shamanism, to allow spirit to move through you so that you can, on behalf of the community or the individual, to bring well-being and healing for them. Okay, so you're becoming the hollow bones, and then you're able to access worlds to bring back that information, either whether it be a soul part, or perhaps it's a term, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, in shaman who's known as a psychopomp, is the one that deals with death and dying. That in shaman crosses souls over to the spirit world, or they bring them into this world. They assist in the birthing of the individual into this world. Okay, so if you look here, and I'm going to bring this up, there's a difference between slide 6. Okay, so there's a difference between a medicine man and a shaman. And so here, this image here, this is grandmother Walking Thunder, and I actually worked with her. I was in lodge with her, and she's a beautiful lady to meet, strong as her name suggests, Walking Thunder, and boy, she is. She's a very powerful, lovely lady. She's a medicine woman, and she works with the plant spirits. So the difference between a medicine person, man or woman, and a shaman, man or woman, is that the medicine person works with the plant spirits in nature. They don't necessarily go and travel worlds. They can, and again, both can switch over. Like a shaman can work with medicine and cross over into being and working with the strong eye as a shaman, and then seeing the spirits and seeing the go with intention into the spirit world and access it. And this is another dear friend of mine. He just, when I talked about at the beginning, Santiago Corregencho. And I met, again, both these people at the Sacred Earth Foundation in Florissant, Colorado. My friend Patty runs that. And actually, here's a picture of her too. That's Shanti. Okay. And again, the medicine person is the one deals with the plant spirits. So if you ever went to like an ayahuasca retreat, for instance, then you're dealing with either a person, basically just a medicine person dealing with the plant spirits. And most generally, not a shaman. They could be, if they're working again with the strong eye, and then they're traveling into worlds through access information. So this is Patty Turner of the Sacred Earth Foundation there, but we have Shanti in the middle, and he was from Peru, Cusco, Peru, and Grandmother Walking Thunder is Dene, also known as Navajo, but people, the correct term of that tribe is Dene, and they're in the four corners of the United States and Arizona. And so, yep, Grandmother Walking Thunder is a medicine woman. And she may, again, I don't know too much. I know personally is that she deals with the plant spirits. And then Shanti here deals with plant spirits and as a shaman and travels. And Patty too, she does it as well. I know her to be more of a medicine woman, but she also travels too. And so I'm using this loosely. Again, we talk to the individual, but I'm just giving you an example of the difference between a medicine person and a shaman. Okay. So the shaman maps the multiverse. Shaman create maps of the spirit world, and the shamans can be either the big kahuna, which in Polynesia is known as a chief, which you could do all aspects of shamanism, not just dealing with soul retrieving parts to the individual who went into ordinary time and space to feel safe, but you could be one that deals with death and dying, and you could help cross souls over, even due to force majeure. Say a tornado struck down somewhere, or there's a flood, and then there are souls that it happens so fast that they don't know that they're dead. So a shaman comes in and clears out that and brings them off into the spirit world. So that's the psychopomp. So there's different types of shamans. Some of them are interested in more particular subject than the other, and then there's ones that deal with all of it. Like I deal with all aspects of shamanism. So the big kahuna, as in dealing with everything, and I have interest in all of it, and I access it all without just being one particular aspect of shamanism. The military knows about this whole thing of accessing the spirit world, of being able to access the third eye, and it's known as remote viewing. And they used to do it, or still do it, to spy on individuals. It's a spying technique. I mean, before gunpowder, warfare and all that, they used their strong eye to see where the enemy was, and this is how it worked. That's why, for instance, in certain cultures, the hair of men are long, because they've known it to be a psychic connection to themselves, so that they know if the enemy's going to come close, especially when they're sleeping. So they woken up because, well, they knew something was coming. And of course, having connection to spirit, spirit wakes them up. It strengthens the strong eye. It strengthens the way of seeing. That third eye, the strong eye, can see. It strengthens the psychic abilities. And so every single human being has one. We all have access to this. That's why they say that all of us are born shaman. It just depends on what you do with that, okay? And this is Grandmother Walking Thunder's book, and you can find that on Amazon. So Walking Thunder, the Dene medicine woman. Okay. So in nature, there again, we talked about animism. So everything in nature has a counterpart in the spirit world first, and then there's the secondary world here as the physical. Okay, so all of us have a soul, and all of us have that higher self who's always looking out for my eyes and always in the spirit world. And then we're here, and as a physical being, we are part of nature. Okay, well, we're just different from the beasts because we can take an image and with our strong eye, and we can image in imagination. So it's image in, and then we focus on it because everything's about focus. Like the spirit world's very keenly focused on us, and we focus together, and then we can create something physical here. Like for the table, my laptop is sitting on right now, or even this chair, is that it was created first as an idea from the eastern part of the medicine wheel, as a thought. And then, go down around the medicine wheel to the south, it comes out as blueprints. And so we create blueprints of that image that we have, and then we go west around the medicine wheel, and then we gather the materials to create the table. And then we go north in the medicine wheel, and the table's created. And even coming back around again to the eastern direction, we have endless ideas and thoughts come to us. That's why sometimes when there's things that are invented on one side of the planet and it's created at the same time in another, like the wind turbine, the windmill was created in Pennsylvania, and at the same time someone in Germany was creating it. So that's accessing the universal mind, and we all can do that. So I always think to myself, how do we copyright anything? It's really got to be unique. But even then, there's no original idea. Basically, you're accessing the universal consciousness, and that's the Christ Buddha consciousness. We could call it whatever you want, but we call it the imagination, which is really the higher mind. We always thought the imagination, that the mind, the brain was conjuring it, but it's really receiving it. You're in receptive mode. That's why the grandest of things have been received in dream time, and during a dream, they wake up and they're like eureka, like the piano, for instance. They got the idea of that. And even Einstein, there was dreams that he had, and then came up and had the discovery of even Edison, of the ideas that came down, and then it actually made it physical appearance here. That's how it works. So there's art here, as you can see this in this image, that, you know, I love this artist, and I can't remember her name. Some of you might, and that's okay. You know, this is for educational purposes here. But everything in the rocks are alive. They're called the grandfathers, and they're alive. They're ancient beings, like the goddess Pali, like in Hawaii. They know that that volcano is a goddess. It's a beautiful, breathing, wild, you know, grand, powerful being. And you don't want to mess around with Pali. So as you can see the rocks, like you can see the faces. And I know some of you probably been to some of these places out in nature, and you can see like how things, that looks like that, you know, the rocks are forming a face or something like that. I know here in out in Colorado Springs and Colorado, if you go to the Garden of the Gods, you can literally see the spirits in the rocks. I mean, it's so obvious there. So there's spirits, there's fairies, there's the elementals, there's the sprites. All and there's true, like in Ireland, I was just talking to a friend about this, that they know about the little people. It's a very real thing. It's just, it became a myth as mankind lost connection to the larger part of themselves, and then they fell into the mind, and then it became mythology or fairy tales. You hear fairies and fairy tales, and it's a very real thing. It's just what's your perception of reality? But in shamanism, we know it to be true. Again, what's true? We know it to be true, but what does that mean? Okay, so but when you put your focus, remember what we said earlier, is everything's about focus onto this, then you start bringing it alive. You're acknowledging the spirits. You're acknowledging these giant, powerful beings that reside in stones and different places of nature. Big mountains stand strong. And that's where some of these tribal cultures will even get their names. That's why it sounds like the way they do, like walking thunder. Yeah, and the thunder came and the rains came. It's actually still going on out there. It's beautiful how it's happening simultaneously while I'm giving this presentation. So anyway, to move on here, like we said, how do you access and get the monkey mind out of the way? We like to say, how do we get that monkey mind out of the way? And so this is how, and this is a scientific explanation of it, is that we lower the brain waves. So the brain waves, and science gave this to us. And there's, again, it's beautiful how we could tie it all in, because there's no wrong or right about anything. There's just creation. There's creating and making things more and expanding creation. There's the human brain waves. So there's gamma. So it's way up there in frequency, as far as frequency and vibration. And then there's the beta wave. And the beta wave is like you're sitting in a classroom or you're at your job and you're coherently speaking to each other. That's a beta wave going on, you're talking. Okay, then there's the alpha wave, which is right above theta, but below beta. And so your brain waves are starting to slow down. And then there's theta wave here. And this is a very important wave, theta, because theta wave is where the shaman sees between worlds. And it's called shamanic journeying, how they can journey to the spirit world while physically being present in the body, knowing the body is very much here, but then their consciousness is able to travel. The consciousness is inside the brain, and science right now is trying to figure that out, to try to put a human brain into an AI, and they're going to be surprised that that consciousness doesn't reside inside the brain. Consciousness is everywhere. It's very much outside of the body, inside the body, outside the atomic level. Cells come from all over. So this is where the grand awakening of mankind, science isn't trumping and running the show per se, but we're accessing this beautiful information so we're able to articulate it. So the theta wave is like that in between, I like to say. It's kind of like the twilight zone-y type of things between waking and sleeping. When you wake up in the morning, you're still trying to get your bearings about you. So your brainwave is now rising to the theta wave. The theta wave is right above the delta, and delta wave is either coma or death. And the bottom side of delta wave, where it just shuts and just does a clear line, is death. But again, there's no such thing as death. It's just when the brain shuts down, and then you enter the spirit world. So the theta wave is where the shaman's wave stays at, and it's a very comfortable wave. It's the same wave as which the earth functions. Every animal, the fish, the birds. There was a while ago, it wasn't long ago, and people are starting to forget about this change of consciousness well underway, and it has been living through it and very much aware of it through the 90s and the 10s and the teens. And here it's a very beautiful time when I came into the world. So I was able to articulate and gather all this information to give it to you. As I remember very clearly that the birds started falling from the sky, and the fish started washing upon the beaches and stuff in a big way. It was unbelievable for people. It was kind of scary in a way because it's called the Schumann frequency was kind of fluctuating. And you could do research on the Schumann, but I think it's like 3 point something hertz, and I can't think of it right now, but that's the wave in which nature moves by, and everybody abides to that wave. Well, this is the same thing. That's how the shaman is able to access the unseen realms, and that's another term in shamanism, or non-ordinary reality. And so the theta wave is the wave in which the brain is moving, and the frequency in which is moving. So all of it's seeing through the eyes of Mother Earth, basically. It's seeing through the beast's eyes. Nature seems to be always, or so it may seem, to be working in cooperation together. Like if you go out to a forest, like I did just the other day, I sat on a bench and listened to all the birds in the morning time, the blackbirds. I was in a wetland, and you could hear them all. And as the birds start talking, the geese start honking, and the other birds in the background, they're all little pieces of the orchestra. It's like grand, and it all seems to be conducted in a way. It all seems like it was already written. But it's all improvisation because everybody is doing their part, because they're all agreeing objectively, again, to that frequency. And that's how it works. That's how nature works together. Whereas humans, the difference between us and the beast is that we have this access to the imagination. So we could take an image, put it in, and then create something from that. I'm sure there's other subtle differences between humans and the beast, but for the purpose of the discussion here, this conversation is just that. Okay, so I just had to put this off here. Okay, so that brings us to now. the shamanic journey. So what happens is that in modern culture, you can do it and beat a drum at a specific pace. And so I have an image up here I'd like to present. Slide 11. And this is me just beating my buffalo drum here. And this is, I run court classes and stuff in which journey groups. And then I have a bunch of people and they come and gather, and then we lay down our bodies and we cover our eyes, and we then have intention, connect to our heart space. And as I'm beating the drum, it's lowering the brain waves. And it's the same thing with plant medicines. Again, it's the shamans do it in all different ways. It's cross-cultural, and how they lower their brain waves to access spirits. But you can also listen to a repetitive rhythm at a particular pace. Okay. And that one doesn't seem to be coming up, but that's okay. And yeah, there's a particular rhythm. And so then you can access then the spirit world. And this is where we journey, and we just allow our consciousness to experience that as we're connecting with the spirit guide first. We have to have a good relationship with the spirit guide before we blindly go into the spirit world. And then when we do that, then we start traveling. So whatever spirit wants to have us know at the time, that's what we experience. Okay. And so shamanic journeying is a way, again, to travel intentionally into the dream time, or we call the real world. This is the secondary world. We talked about that. You have to have a good heart connection to creation before you go here and access these worlds, because some of these worlds, they don't know you by your name, but they know you about your heart connection. Okay. So when you go to sleep every night, you go home. When you leave the physical body, you go home, obviously, because there's no such thing as death. But in shamanic journeying, you're walking between the worlds. And so then you're accessing the dream time intentionally. You could still do it, access the dream time. Oh, there's my picture coming up here. And so you could still access the dream time intentionally. And you could do it before you go to sleep. You know, you could set an intention before you go to sleep at night, and then journey, and you could go have dreams, and you could go back into a dream, and that's your intention. So now all the images are coming up. So here I'm beating what's called a buffalo drum. It's a 22-inch drum. You could have any size drum to do that. And they call it a buffalo drum because in shamanism it has one head, and there's a whole story around that, but you can do your research on that. I might do more advanced classes here for online. But that being said, it's a buffalo drum that has the one head, and it has a handle on the other side. So this is where the shaman can then access the spirit world through the repetitive motions. And it's a good distraction to lower the brainwaves. And this is a shaman who I got to meet again at the Sacred Earth Foundation. Her name is Molly, and she's a Tibetan shaman. And again, every shaman is cross-cultural. They have their own way in which they access the spirit world. And she's got her drum there. And boy, she really beats that thing, and it's really monotonous. It's a really monotonous beat. And not all cultures have such a monotonous beat. It's no good or bad. It's just the way they access the spirit world. And this is Molly accessing the spirit world here. And then spirit, she becomes the hollow bones. Spirit moves through her, and then she does her work on the individuals for whatever they need for their well-being. And there's different types of shamanism. Like we said, the world. And they do it, the world has a different way of doing it all over the world, but it's the same premise. You know, for me beating my buffalo drum here, it's the same thing as what Molly's doing there. And there's no romanticizing any of this. I mean, it is what it is. Some people would argue that, but that's not what we're doing. It's just a knowing that wherever you are in the world, we access it. Either you are in more of the tribal setting where you smoke a cigarette, drink the tea, put the animal clothes on. Some of you may have seen a shaman where they have the fur on or the antlers or whatever animal that there's their spirit guide. And then they start moving around like the animal. There's a good book, and I'll put the recommendations up at the end here. Ted Andrews is his name, and he was an augur. He left us, I believe, in 13, but he left us with so much information, so many books. And Animal Speaks is one of them. And he has a whole directory, definitions from mammals to reptiles to insects and birds and everything. And they even, in the beginning, he talks about shape-shifting, how, it's known that a shaman can shapeshift from a jaguar to a human or back again, forth in between to again access that. But what they're doing is they're becoming a hollow bone. So they're shapeshifting. That's why they have the mask on. And I'll bring this image up. So you don't have to actually physically shapeshift, although they're known to do that. And the shaman will put, so in soul retrieval, for instance, they'll put up the mask in front of the face to hide the human face. And what they're doing is as they're journeying, they are then becoming who they are in the spirit world. So they're shape-shifting themselves to do their job. And so you could see this shaman here, and this one's from Siberia. He's got the mask on and he's hiding his physical face, and then he's actually taking on the steps. You can't see it animated here, but he's taking on the different motions of the animal, and then whatever beast he's taking on, or the being that's coming through him, to then through compassion and loving heart resonance, he then brings the information and well-being, and for the land, the healing of the individual, the community, or anything at large in which the intention and they're doing it. Okay, so the very basic premise is like, it's kind of like a lot like Reiki. It's called energy extractions, and they're just not removing, but they're clearing out that which doesn't belong to you. All of us can collect cosmic debris wherever we are throughout the day. I like to call it cosmic debris. Is that things that don't belong to you? You can take them on if you're not knowing that it's happening. We can be very unconscious, but knowing how the mechanics and energy works and vibrations and frequencies work is like more than half the battle. Wording there, because there's no battles. What it is that when you fine-tune yourself through meditation and a good daily practice, and then you intentionally keep your vibration in check, you won't have that cosmic debris get on you. In fact, not at all. If not any, very less. You can't do it completely 100%, but some of the stuff might sound like a paradox here as I'm talking. That's the nature of this place. But when your vibration's up and your frequency's up in vibration, then things that the malevolent nature can't get you, like the spirits that aren't in for your benefit, they won't come on to you. Okay, and that's known as possessions or even exorcisms. Like some beings will come on if you're vulnerable and susceptible. Children are tremendously. When I was seeing Molly do her work, that was really unbelievable. And so I'm going to get this person over here. And so she was doing a lot of what is called this depossession in shamanism, that taking the spirits are off with children, and they don't even know that they had them. Children, they can look like they're fine, they're all fine. But if you really pay attention, these children are like a candy store for spirits. They're innocent, they don't know, they're open to receive the things. But when we're taught this, and we can teach our children well, and then again, the cultures change accordingly, and the children are so susceptible. But it's also those who have soul loss, who feel like it's like having a black hole inside. You can't get enough of something. Codependency, alcohol, drugs. You feel like you just got to keep doing it because you don't feel whole. I haven't been the same since. Like the alcoholic doesn't just drink for themselves, but they drink for about 20 dead people next to them. That's why they call it spirits. So Yeah, soul loss is a big thing, because then you're leaving yourself susceptible to have cosmic debris, but that's the lesser than, or spirits that are malevolent, not in it for you, not benevolent with the B, beneficial, but not so beneficial for you. And that's where they hire from the churches know about this too. They'll hire priests, all sorts of, like, again, the shamanic witch doctors, or anyone that could come on and cleanse them away from that, which is known as exorcisms. But it doesn't have to get that far if one is aware that they have boundaries, but it's not something you have to set. You just know that by raising your frequency, and you won't be susceptible to for any of that. There, we talked about soul retrieval, or anything happens that is traumatic, you can check out. I lived without my 2-year-old self for 36 years. And when that aspect came back, I was flying high. I mean, my inner child was like rocking again. I was really feeling, giddy and happy again. And for most of the 2 decades, there was something missing. I hadn't been the same since. So it's kind of like that. That's why we look out from that window. There's many different ways of saying it. Someone can talk to you and be like, I haven't been the same since this or that point in time. Then there are death and dying. We talked about that. Working with the dead, crossing souls over, bringing back. There's PTSD, and those who've been in battle. I mean, I'd like to say there's a lot of people, just regular people. I mean, I used to say a lot of people have come from some long forgotten war just in childhood. Some of us have experienced that. And so I have a picture of myself here in 16 working on someone. I don't have many because it's such a sacred thing, and I don't really, I didn't have cameras on me or anything doing my work. But here I am at a holistic fair in Pueblo, the Pueblo Holistic Fair, which happens every year, twice a year. Check that out, in Pueblo, Colorado. But I'm working on someone on the table here, and we're doing a very potent, recalibration to that for them. And so PTSD, is known as shell shock, is more of like the non-politically correct word, is that you get shocked out of your body. And so like we talked about, any traumatic event that's going to happen is going to shock you out. And then you check out into a space called non-ordinary reality. And the shaman is there to retrieve that back to you, and you feel whole again, and then retrieve a spirit guide back again. Everything in nature has a counterpart in the spirit world. It's medicine. So it's the same thing as the doctor says, hey, take 2 of these and see me in the morning. It's the same thing to a shaman that retrieves an animal spirit, an angelic spirit, whoever it is. Let me tell you what archangels, maybe all of them, are working with you at the time, which is the highest of frequencies, and they're always working with us. Okay, so raising the spirit, raising the vibration is key, and you work in cooperation with the spirits. Okay. An augur is one who speaks with nature, and was hired, for instance, by the king and the queen. And because the king and queen had that severed connection, maybe they did, but just giving you an example, that they'd hire an augur, A-U-G-U-R, and the augur knew what crops to grow. Where to grow the crops. Again, an augur was a shaman that spoke with the animal spirits, what the climate's going to be like, what the weather was going to be like. It was basically your psychic prophet. And so give the information over to the king and queen, and then they do something about it. We talked about dream time, for instance, dreaming, and these dreaming cultures, which is cross-cultural. And the chief, like every morning, the tribe would wake up and they'd eat breakfast, and then they'd share their nighttime dreams. And anyone that had the big dream, the chief would take them aside, and then they'd do something about it. So that's how that worked, because they knew that when we go to sleep every night, we go off into the real world. And the Aboriginals, for instance, in Australia talked about that. They're called the people, capital T, capital P. Excuse me. And the spirit world is capital T, capital R, capital W, because that is our true home. That's when we get rushed out of these physical bodies, we go home, and then we become again our true nature, our Buddha selves, our Christ selves. There's different ways of saying it. Okay, so we're almost at the end here, because again, this is just an introduction, and I'm throwing off so many different terms to you and a lot of different aspects of shamanism that you can go off and do your research and contact me. So my website's up right here, and please send me a message at any time into the contact form if you have any questions. I would love to hear your input and any questions that you have. This is going to really spark a lot of questions if you've made it this far. Perhaps this have triggered some stuff within you, and it can trigger some stuff with you. I don't have an audience here, so it's not like I'm being sparked with questions at this point where I give live talks. It could go much longer, and there's a lot of things that we're covering. But again, if anything coming up, perhaps it's sparking memories that you're having, or it's triggering you in certain ways and you want more explanation of it, please send me a message, because that's why this is all here for you and why I'm here doing this. Okay, so shape-shifting, we touched upon that a little bit, whereas you can shape-shift. Everybody has the ability to do this. And again, that book by Ted Andrews, An Animal Speak, talks about this and the different techniques and breathing techniques and different postures you could take on to strengthen the psychic abilities, to be able to have the ability to actually shapeshift into nature, spirits, and back again into human form. Then it brings in questions are, well, what is human? Who are we? What it is to be human? Okay, this is the grand awakening that we have, that we're gracefully walking into and now able to express and to give freely over, without being, susceptible to any kind of limitations of government or power and control over us. So I'm utilizing a space for that. It's such beautiful technology and the frequencies available to be able to speak this way. So we shapeshift. We could shapeshift. We can get skinny or gain, or go back to gain weight, lose weight. You can't get back to your infant self. That's shapeshifting. You shapeshifted from being an infant to your adult self and all the phases in between. That's shapeshifting. There's all sorts of different, because every word has more than two meanings, and so it's not just that seems to be a magical thing to do, is shapeshift into an animal right in front of your eyes and back again to human. But we're always shapeshifting every moment we're born again. Every moment is a chance for renewal, for rebirth, and to be a whole new version of ourselves without limitation. Okay, so the shaman shapeshifts themselves into a particular way. So again, they can bring the health and well-being back into the community for the individual and maybe the whole community itself at large. First, for themselves, you have to fine tune and remain a connection, a strong connection to the heart space in order to do this work. You can't just fake it till you make it, or do it for whatever reasons you have for power and control over, or ego, or involve that. No, again, the universe knows what you mean, doesn't know what you say. So you can't use this work for any bad sorcery activity, because that's known as a no-no, and a code in shamanism is that you can't use it for the benefit of trying to do things out of power control, or to revenge or get back at somebody, go spy on them because you want to know what they're doing. No, just a little disclaimer there. If any of you want to go further with this, there is no acts of other than working on behalf of co-creation through with co-creating with co-creation in a heart-centered way. That's the point. Okay, so here I have some recommended materials. I don't read, I guess, so much books. I want to say, but I do recommend some books sometimes, because they do come in handy, and that's why I leave it up to the individual to make your own decision on what you want to do for your access to how you want to expand your knowing about shamanism. So I do recommend some books that are available. And as this particular slide comes on here, back into this. We're waiting for that to come up on the screen. We're still having the thunder and lightning it's died down. The thunder has. I can hear it just a little bit in the background right now, but the rain has subsided. And I love the timing of this as we're coming to the end of this this introduction here. So that may or may not come up on the screen. I do have my Wi-Fi is a little slow today. I'll try to get that back up here and do the best I can with that. So if you if you have any questions whatsoever on any of this, I do encourage you to contact me. Because I'm a wealth of information. I have a lot of training underneath me. I do offer apprenticeships. I offer sessions on all the matter, whatever it is, mental, psychological, emotional, physical. Say you want to be connected to your higher self. I offer all means and ways in which we could do that together. The services are available on my website, and I do work with you as financially if we need to do that, depending where you are in the country, because the currency exchange is different. I talk about deliberate creation, that you are the creator of your own reality. And this is what makes it really big transdimensional shamanism, because shamanism is actually, you know, it was very rigid in a way that there were certain ways that you did it. They stuck strictly with the shamanic way of doing things. And but everything that we know is changing. It has changed. It continues to change. I want to bring Shanti back up here again, just because I love this picture of him. There's different ways and to change and to bring and renew the face of everything. And that's what's happening to shamanism. Every culture around the world knows that shamanism, we know, is changing. It doesn't mean that we're going to not look at the traditional ways of shamanism. No, because it's beautiful, but there's expansion upon us. Okay, so there's different in ways in which you can approach shamanism now. It used to be, there was the lower world, the middle world, the upper world, and the lower world were the animal spirits, like in a tree. You could go down the hole, and that's when you access the animal spirits. Much like in Alice in Wonderland, she chased the rabbit down the hole, and I'm waiting for a slide to come up here to show you what I'm talking about. Well, Alice in Wonderland is is a known book, very much known book here. It is here, and so as you can see in this one, she's chasing the rabbit down the hole. So that's where you access the animal spirits. Okay, and that's how the shaman does it. What we used to do traditionally to bring back the animal guide to you. For medicine. And then there's the middle world, which is a lot like J.R.R. Tolkien, where it's a lot like here, you're dealing with the elemental, still the nature world, but it's a lot like, it looks like here. So that you know about Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or anything like that, you'll know what we're talking about here. And so the upper world is the angelic realm. We have access to the angelic angels and the archangels and the higher frequencies. And so there was the lower, middle, upper. So now, through the transformation of everything's like come together into one place. The divisions between the lower, middle, upper. Shamans still access it that way. I'm just giving you an example of the expansion that's upon us. So when you go on a shamanic journey, you then go into your special place out in nature within your consciousness. You stay there, sit on the ground, and you wait for a spirit guide to come, and then you journey from there. So it could be the lower, middle, upper worlds that you access. But here now, what we're presenting is that everything can come to you all into the same place. Okay. And so Lewis Carroll, when he created the story, that's exactly, it's very shamanic, and he accessed all of what we're talking about. And there's so much involved in Alice in Wonderland. There's so much symbolism there, all the aspects and facets of who she is, encountered during that dream. It was just happened. Nothing's just a dream, because children even know this. They know very well that it's not just a dream. You're accessing the very real world of the multidimensionality of creation. Okay, so Alice was presented with all the aspects and facets of who she is. Even the queen, off with your head, that was her. It was an aspect of herself. And she woke up again on the tree limb. It depends on the story of Alice in Wonderland, in which you're accessing, but she fell asleep on the tree and then woke up on the tree, and it all happened in a dream in a very short amount of time. But she took a journey and met many different creatures, many different beings, and it's very shamanic. I mean, you can tell there's sacred geometry that was mentioned in Alice in Wonderland. It's very beautiful work of art, extremely beautiful. And how he put it all together. Even, you know, the flowers are singing, they were alive. Everything is alive. We talked about animism. Everything in the nature has a counterpart in the spirit world. Okay, so that right there, I'm going to end off on this. This is again very in depth in a sense, because you can only do so much. You can only do so much within an introduction to shamanism, and do it justice in a short amount of time. But that pretty much gives you the basis, at least understanding of what we're looking at here. And if you want to go any further, please, I encourage you to contact me. And I offer apprenticeships if you want to strengthen if your practice, if you know, whatever you're doing, whatever work that you're doing within the realm of the esoteric arts or anything, maybe you want to just go into it for your own self and you don't want to start a practice. Because I've worked with individuals that take the apprenticeship to just come into more of all of who they are. They do it for their own well-being. So you don't have to necessarily do it to strengthen a practice or to enhance your practice or gain or start a practice to help the world at large. Perhaps you're called to do that. And so you go towards that calling. That's how it works. If you dream of me, contact me. That's a big time thing there. And again, may you enjoy this introduction to shamanism as much as I've enjoyed to allow spirit to move through me and to articulate to the best of my ability on the introduction on shamanism, and really talk about the true nature of who we all are at the very core being of ourselves. So again, thank you very much for being here. I'm honored to do this. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, spirits. Thank you, everyone that joined into the space today. And again, if you want to go further, do not hesitate to contact me. Okay. So on behalf of everything, thank you so much again for being here. Much love.